A lot of us, we had already been in the war, been in the stages of violence, of pulling the trigger and doing all that. So we don't grown out of this gang banging. It was the next era that was trying to sow their oats. So once again, a lot of us just pulled back out of respect.
You know what I did forget to ask you? Back in your teenage years, as a West Side Crip, who were your guys' main rivals? Who was your fiercest rivals that you guys were like, these are the ones we're going after?
Video, you know, this is for sure. Video, open your soul, represent your ghetto, baby.
For me, all of them had prices. For me, over there you had the Chain Gang, Van Ness Boys, T. Rogers and them in the Jungle, 5'9's Brim, Treetop, Terry Cadeau, all them. You had the Afton Park Boys, you had Denver Lanes, you had the Figueroa Boys, you had the Walnuts, you had the AC Deuces. That was during the West Side, East Side. You had the Swans, you had the Pueblo Bishops. All of those back in 71, 72, 73, 74, all of those had the same status as far as getting into it.
You mentioned the AC Deuces. We came across these guys a few times. Where were they at during your years?
They was at Jefferson High.
Okay.
That's where the Ace Deuce was. They used to wear the derbies with the hairnets over them with a card in there. That's how this before colors.
So they were an East Side gang?
Yeah, they were sold by Jeff. In fact, they infamous for running over Coulee, Lundy, that got killed at a hit at a parade over there. That's back in like 71, 72 when we were young, somewhere, and I was over there going over there then. So
where was Coulee from?
Coulee was East Side.
East Side Crip?
Mm-hmm. Back then. This one was East Side, West Side, in Compton. Yeah, Coulee was from way back in the day.
I want to throw a landmark out there and see what you could tell me about it. The Coulee Coups in Inglewood, that's brought up in Crip history. What's the significance of the Coulee Coups, and what is it?
Oh, that's where they started selling PCP, Sherman, the stick set. Babyface was over there, Herman Moncrief, Blackwell, that's who was having the water, Shirley Matthews, that's my baby mama. We was staying right there serving the Coulee Coups. There was a meeting ground too for the Inglewood Crips, the 60s and all us. We'll all be over there, the A-Trades. This is when the A-Trades in the 60s, Rayford, Hunchy, everybody going over there selling water and shit like that. So, and they starting to pimp on Century Boulevard, Big James over there. He's running a donut shop the feds don't gave him in hindsight over there.
What'd you say the feds gave him?
Mm-hmm. He already was a federal informant. He had came from the riots in Attica, where they had, he the one that saved the warden in the movie, Hurricane. That's the character, but it's
what
not.
James are we talking about, bro?
James Garrett, the one that gave the information on Tookie, and the one that told on me about the jewelry store robbery in 79, a couple months. Back then in 77, they had a donut shop over there, miraculously, that was built out of nowhere, where they had them running it. But in hindsight, that was a federal spot they had made and gave them that job.
I see you're a big advocate for Tookie's innocence. You push the hard line for your homeboy. And you go after this James guy a lot, I see too. I never heard you really slam Blackie in that whole scenario.
Well, I slammed Blackie for what? Blackie gave testimony, and I look at it like, what I'm gonna do? You do the crime, you do the time. That's the first thing. But for that murder there, Blackie turned state's evidence. It's no more difference. You don't hear me slam Jamel. You don't hear me say nothing about Jamel either. And I could slam him for the shit he said about Tookie. Or not just him. There's a lot of other people that could say shit to say they did this, they told this, or told that. So it's not that I don't, it's a lot of them. You only know of him or Jamel because of the study. But what about those that got jackets on them that y'all don't know about, that we know about? So it's not just him that, I just don't speak on none of them, period. Because I also understand at an early age how you could get panicky. You can sweat, you can call it snitching or telling however you want. But I can understand how somebody that could get in some shit, and if they ain't built for it, they gonna spill their guts. So I look at it like you need to know who the fuck you messing around with when you go into that shit. You know, ain't everybody built like that. So I could say shit about Jamel. I could say shit about Blackie. I can say shit that other people putting jackets on people when they jackets aren't warranted. So if I don't have something to say positive about somebody, I'm not gonna slang they mud or say nothing bad about them to get, because what'll happen is, and people need to learn this, you got people that are kin to Blackie that got nothing to do with it. Guilt by association. Oh, your daddy a snitch. Now you got a jacket on. So I learned to not do that out of respect for older people, and it might have a bloodline or something to where what happened then, it stays there.
Well, let me ask you this. You don't have to dig all into it, but is Jamel's relationship with Tookie what people say? Were they once upon a time best friends or road dogs? Is that a true relationship?
Yeah.
So why would he throw his road dog under the bus at the worst point in his life? How do you justify that? What would be his intentions?
Well, I can tell you, Jamel always been like the third wheel in the Three Stooges. He's always the third one thought of. You see Tookie, everybody Tookie. Jamel right there, just as big, flexing. Raymond Watson, his name would always come up on the tail end. So when he's talking about Tookie did the murder, I look at it like he shouldn't have. He didn't say, he's looking at it like he did all the murders. That's not true. So he's thinking, most people think when they say, oh, Tookie did all the murders, that's not true. Tookie didn't do all the murders. You got the first murder at Whittier, that's with Blackie and Tony Sims, bam. One got the death penalty, Tookie, bam, got life without, and Blackie got extradition to where he got extradited and sent back out the country for his testimony. So you'll have people saying, oh, Bam told. But how in the hell Bam told and he got life without parole? So a lot of these things are not factual, and I was around there. So I can justify, I mean, I don't justify it, but I understand it though, how they could get caught up. It's been a gang of shit I done did with a gang of people to where we don't sit and drunk that mud and did whatever we did. So with Jamel always been the back seat with Tookie, and this was his way to where he thought by him going the opposite and saying, oh, he did it, he thought that'd get him in the door more likely than not, to where he didn't find out it wasn't but 15 minutes of fame.
You really don't hear any stories about Jamel's cripping or criminal activities. Is Tookie and Jamel's relationship strictly based on bodybuilding? Because I don't hear nothing about this dude's cripping.
No. He's crip.
Okay.
Nah, they probably wasn't around, or they just hate. He don't put his work in. I promise you that. But just like Tookie. Now it's 1972, 73, 74. They're more the faces, the Clark Gables, particularly Tookie. He's the Clark Gable of the Crips. James Comppton in Comppton. But nobody had the stigma and the style of Tookie because Raymond Washington in jail. But nobody personified the Crips on a level as far as Tookie. Nobody. His characteristics, his moves, his everything. And when you see Tookie, you usually seen Jamel.
Let me ask you something about Took.
Big Jack.
That pops in my mind. Took basically moved to Comppton 73 on up to like 77. He was, for the most part, MIA from the West Side. Do you think if Took was still based on the West Side during those years, the West Side would have broke up into all those different sets?
Well, I don't know, but I know as soon as he did leave, they broke into sets. But until then, we were West Side Crips. And you had Tookie as the face, Michael Christian, Monk, the Melvin Hardys, the Warlock, the Buddhas, the Hawks, the Keith Henderson, the Ricky Hendersons, all these, the Barney Jones, the Erskines, the Donald Archies. You had all these guys, so I don't know, they couldn't influence us then. And they never tried to, that's what I'm saying. We already was banging, and they never tried to influence us or go do this or stop doing that.
Did you ever hang out with the Grandies in Compton?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know any background on the history of that place?